Welcome to Small Arms Solutions. Today we're going to be talking about AK-74s. I guess I would admittedly say that I've never really been a big AK-47 fan. However, I have to say I do like the AK-74. Let's talk a little bit of the background on it. In 1974, the Soviets introduced a new cartridge and a new rifle. They introduced the AK-74 chambered in 5.45 millimeter. That was a result of the experience in the Vietnam War with the 5.56 millimeter. The Russians had definitely seen how effective the round was and how effective the lighter weight rifle was with the lighter ammunition. And they decided they wanted their own small caliber high velocity rifle, and what they did was they took the AK-47 design and they basically designed the rifle around that, or the cartridge around that. So the AK-74 actually on paper is more reliable than the AK-47. If you look at the bolt weight ratios and thrust and all that good stuff, it actually works out to be more balanced than the AK-47. The AK-74 actually is. The rifle started out in Afghanistan. That was the first time it was actually seen. The rifle I'm showing here is the AKS-74. The actual first AK-74 that was shown was a fixed wooden stock. Unfortunately, I don't have one of those, and this was the second. What we have here is a side folding stock that actually will close, and this is very good for mounted, whether you're a tanker, whether you're in any kind of a vehicle, a paratrooper. Basically, all you do is you have a little notch there, you put it right there. Now, looking at the inside, we're all basically AKM. The barrel itself, obviously, is for the 5.45 caliber, and you have a extremely effective muzzle brake. Now, this is not a flash hider by no means. In fact, I think it's a flash enhancer. However, this decreases, well, there really is no muzzle rise to this gun whatsoever. If you ever had the opportunity to fire one of these on fully automatic, this is probably the most comfortable and easiest to control rifle in the world for as far as being fully automatic in a intermediate caliber. In fact, this rifle has seen action ever since the Afghanistan war. It's been adopted by many countries. The reputation is quite good. The terminal performance is also a lot different from the AK-47. The AK-47 with its 7.62 by 39 caliber, it's a 311 diameter projectile going around 2,300 foot a second. For the most part, when it strikes tissue, it blows a hole right through. It doesn't tumble, it doesn't come apart. The bullet just goes right through. The 5.45 is quite different. What the 5.45 is a projectile that has a steel core, has a sort of a lead sheath that goes over the core, and you have the actual or steel jacket itself. There's actually an airspace in between the top of the lead and the top of the inside of the projectile. What that does is once it strikes the tissue, it causes the lead to shift in the tip of the projectile, and it causes immediate tumbling. Now, the damage the 5.45 does, you do have hydrostatic damage as well, because you got basically a 53 grain projectile going around 3,000 foot a second or so. But what the bullet does is it tumbles end over end. So its damage comes from the actual tumbling itself of the projectile. Unlike the 5.56, where it's striking you with, again, a little bit more hydrostatic shock going around 3,200 foot a second, 3,100 foot a second, depending on the barrel length. But what the 5.56 does is once it hits the target, it will begin to yaw, and then it will break apart at the cannelure and cause multiple wounds. So it'll destroy more tissue. However, if you were to compare the 5.45 to the 7.62 by 39, the 5.45 is significantly more effective on human targets. For as far as barrier is concerned, if you have to cut down a door, you have to cut down a mud hut, the 7.62 by 39 still will have an edge over that. But considering what an assault rifle is designed for is anti-personnel, the 5.45 is, I think, is a much better option than the 7.62 by 39 for military use due to its better projectile, better wounding performance. Not to mention its better range. It's a much flatter shooting cartridge itself, so you have a more longer range to it. With this rifle here, I can engage a 200-yard target, 100% hits. With I've had AKs that at 200 yards, you know, I have a hard time striking the targets at all with the 7.62x39. I'm sure that depends on the quality of the AK, but the average run-of-the-mill Romanian type AK, they're generally not accurate, you know, beyond 150 to 200 yards, especially without optics. So again, this was the first one. This particular rifle was actually built by Vince Buckles out at Kinetic Research Development down in Gonzales, Louisiana. He did this off of a Bulgarian parts kit. Did an absolute gorgeous job on it. It's tight. It's a wonderful rifle. We're going to go to the next rifle I want to show you. What we have here is a modernized AK74. This particular one was made by Krebs Customs. Now, if any of you guys know Mark Krebs or his work, he works with AKs like Picasso works with oils. This guy does an incredible job on everything that he builds. This is pretty much an ideal replica of an AK-74 modernized rifle that went to the synthetic materials. You can see the lightning cuts on the side here. You can see the polymer here. This one has a smooth receiver cover on it. Russian marked front sight. Now, of course, to make this thing legal, we have to have all the 922R stuff. So we have American-made stock, pistol grip, trigger assembly. We have operating rod that's U.S. made, as well as the muzzle brake itself. So we make all of our 922R compliant components. This particular type of model saw quite a bit of use in the Soviet Union, as well as the satellite countries. The rifle, you know, it did have the fixed stock, which always proved to be problematic. You know, the Russians do a lot of mechanized type warfare, so they're mounted quite a bit in armed personnel carriers and helicopters and whatnot. So they definitely, I think they felt a need to go with a telescopic stock, something a little more durable than the original, which goes to show the rifle that we're going to be talking about here today. This was the rifle that we just had sent to us. This is from Arsenal. It's the model SLR-104FR. What we have here is basically the current Soviet issue type rifle. It's the AK74M, or modernized rifle. It's very similar to the one you just saw, with the exception being the stock itself. It has more so of a fixed stock look, but it opens up. Now, this rifle here is also made in Bulgaria. It has all the modernization of the Soviet rifle. In fact, if you see any pictures of the Soviet army right now, or sorry, I mean the Russian army right now, this is the rifle that you're going to see. They did adopt an AK-12, which you're going to see a while before you're going to start seeing those fielded in large numbers. But this remains the Russian army, as well as many of the satellites' main battle rifle. We're going to go over this one from pretty much from the butt to the muzzle here to show how it looks and what it features. Looking at the stock, you can see this groove that's cut into it right here. What this is so it will fit over the scope mount itself. The scope mount is pretty much standard on all the AK-74Ms. So you have your button right here, you push in, that closes. To release the stock, you have a button here you push, and that opens. You have the AK-74 or AKM type ribbed receiver cover. You'll have matching serial numbers. You'll have the last four of the serial number on the receiver cover. You'll have it on the bolt carrier. So you have obviously your standard safety. You have this is all, you know, it's all black, of course. I mean, pretty much all of these are. If you see anything that's not black, it's generally going to be something that somebody did. Your rear sight, you have up to 1,000 meters. That's pretty optimistic for this caliber. Standard 30-round magazine. This will accept any of the AK-74 30-round magazines, the AK or RPK-74 40-round magazines, and so forth. The barrel is it's cold hammer forged, chrome plated. The muzzle brake itself is manufactured by Arsenal. You do also, one of the things you notice you really can't see, but if you look at the gas port on a standard AK is standard up and down. This one's on a 45-degree angle. That has to do with the gas port shedding jacket materials inside of it with this particular projectile. So that's one of the differences between the AK-47 and the AK-74 is the actual direction of the gas port itself. One of the things that's unique about the Bulgarian, the Arsenal rifles, is they have a two-stage trigger in them. It's a modified trigger that definitely increases your accuracy. I can't really say as whether I like it or not. I think what it does do is it inhibits your rapid fire, but I think it definitely increases your single shot accuracy. So I guess depending on what you're doing with it, it could go either way, whether you like it or you don't. I will say on paper, it makes a big difference, but when you start trying to get them off rapid, you could probably take some time to get used to it. This assembly is the same as any standard AK. Remove the magazine. Verify empty. Push inward. You're going to remove your recoil spring. Bolt and bolt carrier. This was definitely put together extremely well. The rivets, everything is perfect. Clean, no machine marks. These guys do make they make a premium grade AK, and they're around $1,000. I think they are retail. This particular one here, this isn't going back. I'm going to be buying this one. As you can see, these are all my AK74s. I'm very fond of this particular family of rifles. The ammunition is not hard to come by. You can still see quite a bit of it with the banning of the military surplus ammunition. That sort of made it a little bit more difficult. But you got several companies now who are making standard steel jacketed or full metal jacket that doesn't have the penetrator cores in them or the steel cores in them. But overall, it's just an incredibly pleasant gun to shoot. The 545 has been the basis for everything that the Soviets, or now Russians, have been doing. In 1994, there was the adoption of the AN-94. It was supposed to replace the AK-74. It never did happen. The AN-94 was adopted by some of the Spetsnaz units and Special Forces units, but due to the high cost, the rifle never really saw light of day. Although the AK-74 has been in service with the Soviets since 1974 and continues through the Russian army, it has not been adopted throughout the world. For the most part, the former Eastern Bloc countries, Eastern Europe, they had all adopted the AK-74, whether it was the Soviet rifle or their own. Middle East, with the exception of Afghanistan, the rifles that were left over from the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan, that is the only place where you're pretty much going to see AK-74s at all. The rest of the Middle East, Southeast Asia, China, you're all going to see the 7.62 by 39 still. South America as well, you're going to see 7.62 by 39. So it hasn't been completely, the 74 has not completely ousted the AK-47 and the 7.62 by 39 millimeter cartridge. And why that is there are people who just prefer the 30 caliber. That's just the way that it is. Overall, I think that the 7.60 by 39 is a decent cartridge. I do think that the 545 is definitely a better option for military use. If you're going to be cutting down mud huts, you're not going to be using an AK-74. You're going to be using a PKM. You're going to be using a Dishka or a heavier firearm. Which always goes to talk about military ammunition in general. What do you want to do with it? The U.S. had to answer that question during Vietnam. Were they more concerned about being able to penetrate through barriers, or were they more concerned about being able to effectively destroy targets? The U.S. made their decision in the Vietnam War. It was to go with destruction of tissue and to carry more ammunition. The overall small caliber high velocity weapons program has been a success. The U.S. has had issues in more recent years due to the use of the M855 ball ammunition, which has been a problem due to the construction of it. The Russians have used this caliber since '74. They've used it successfully in several different skirmishes throughout the years. The rifles have been legendary as far as durability and reliability. And here in the United States, pretty much any of those models that the Russians have used throughout the years, you have access to. Arsenal offers a complete line of different types of rifles in 5.56, 7.60 by 39, and 5.45. So depending on what you like, you can have a rifle identical to this, that's chambered in 7.60 by 39 or 5.56 if you choose. If you like those calibers better. But Arsenal is putting out probably some of the finest AKs in the industry at decent prices. It's not like you're going to be spending the kind of money you would for a Krebs or for a Rifle Dynamics. For somebody who wants a standard type AK of whatever caliber, of whatever variant, I think Arsenal is an awesome option for that. I couldn't be happier with this one. That's why I'm keeping it, is because it was very well made. It's very tight. There's no slop to it whatsoever. It's got a good chrome bore, and I wanted a version that was identical to what was used today. Now we're going to take the sucker to the range and we're going to see how she shoots. Now we're going to take the Arsenal SLR. What model do we have here? SLR-104FR, which this is basically a copy of a Russian AK74M, or modernized. As you can see, they got rid of the skeleton stock, and it folds in place here. The stock is a little bit longer, so it's a lot better, more for people of longer stature than the shorter stature. I'm admittedly not an AK fan. However, I am quite fond of the AK74 and the 5.45 cartridge. And I think Arsenal did an exceptional job building this rifle. I hope you enjoyed this video. The AK-74 again has been something I followed for many years. I'm actually quite fond of it. I'm very pleased to be able to have these different rifles to shoot. Going back to the original one from 1974-75 up to the current one that's used by the Russians right now. I thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please click like and please subscribe and share. Thank you.